Jacobite you call me, and the Jacobite I am. I stand for Scotland's laws and rights, I am the loyal man. And if that blood in here, they kill me and I die. The grave which I inhabit, it's Jacobite as I. I'm proud to be a traitor, cause it's to a tyrant crown. Against all form of slavery, I gladly stand my ground. I'll no accept the union with shotgun it was made. My rising won't be over until all debts repaid. It's the Jacobite you call me, and the Jacobite I am. I stand for Scotland's laws and rights, I am the loyal man. And if that blood in wood, yet kill me and I die. The grave which I inhabit, that's Jacobite as I. No more we'll take handouts with the cap in hand. I'll see the servile chains fade broken in this land. And I'll see my people honoured with the life that they deserve. And I'll fight them with my dying breath, and that you have my word. It's the Jacobite they call me, and the Jacobite I am. I stand for Scotland's laws and rights, I am the loyal man. And if that blood in here, they kill me and I die. The grave which I inhabit, that's Jacobite as I. There'll be no more clearances, except will clear away. No longer am I waiting for a prince over the sea. Now it's in our own hands, our hope and destiny. If you call yourself a Jacobite, come and stand with me. It's the Jacobite they call me, and the Jacobite I am. I stand for Scotland's laws and rights, I am a loyal man. If that blood in mood, you kill me and I die. The grave which I inhabit, that's Jacobite as I.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from in the world, and welcome back. Well, I've not seen you earlier today, Glenn, but how are you doing?
No, I'm doing very well. I'm extremely full, having consumed a rather enormous dinner with my family. But yeah, I'm pretty good. I was just saying to you before, I did miss being on this afternoon. Actually, I thought it was a good show, and Ian did cover something that I intend to cover tonight. So had I been there, I probably would have delivered that. But I'll do it tonight. But yeah, good, all good in the current circumstances.
Well, yeah, you have to almost put that clarification on now. Whenever somebody asks you, "Are you okay?" Yeah, I'm fine. Well, total current fuckwittery aside, or
exactly, it's an attachment that we just have to put to things now. So
yeah,
I
did decide the other day that we could it's almost become its own adjective, to the point that if we, in the rare possibility that life did at some point in the future go back to normal, it would literally be an adjective. It would be, "Oh, how's your week been?" "Oh, it's been very 2026 this week." Or had a bit of a 2020 moment earlier.
Yeah, I mean, it seems so long now since I remember the phrase when it surfaced. I remember the phrase "the new normal" being foisted upon us. This is the new normal. Things are never going to be the same. And you know what? They were bloody right. Things have never been the same. We have been on a downward trajectory. For the whole of this millennium so far, I think, and it's and we're getting towards the bottom, as far as I can see. We're getting towards the very bottom of the hill, where we might be in for a rather nasty landing. As Ian has been pointing out for a long time now. I obviously, like anybody, I hope that we don't end up embroiled in some kind of global nuclear war. And if these fuckwits don't seem to care, and that's where they seem to be happily leading us like the Pied Piper. So
sorry, I have to excuse the flashing. I'm trying to put something up for later.
Right, okay, that's all right.
Automatically adding it to the screen, it wouldn't just come up in the background.
Yeah, but I don't mind.
But yes, it is. It's exactly like that. Unfortunately, it's just
yeah. There's so many factors now to try and keep your finger on, to try and keep an eye on. There are so many plates spinning, and any one of them at any minute could crash. That's how it feels. It feels like we're at the circus, which I think we are, and the clowns have got 24 plates spinning, and any one of those plates that are spinning could cause the whole thing to come tumbling down. So yeah, I use a lot of analogy. I'm sorry. That's my brain.
Yeah, that as well, to be honest. So
yeah, that's the way my brain works. My brain always tries to put things into encapsulate it into something you can almost visualize. So we talk about plates spinning, or we'll talk about going down the helter skelter. Things of this nature, and somehow, to my mind, it makes it easier to encapsulate concepts and ideas if you put them into a way that is more easily grasped. I mean, sometimes, obviously, when it comes to things like facts and figures and graphs and maps and things like that, they are what they are. And that is a way of expressing situations in terms of upward or downward trends, or relationships between countries and things like that. It helps if you can have at least a grasp of geography. But if you can't, then that's when you need to look at the map. And I know, well, Jackie's always saying to me, she said to me the other day, well, what countries are next to Iran? How far away from Iran is Israel? And I think this, and things like that, I think this is a common a common thing, really, that it's especially in countries that are remote, or countries that suddenly crop out of nowhere. We talk about what happened in Slovenia today. So then your brain scrambles to think, well, where is Slovenia? And what relationship does it have to other countries around it? And then you have to go to the map. You can't visualize it in another way. So they are necessary.
They are. When we started getting into Transnistria and things like that, I'm thinking I've never even heard of Transnistria.
Yeah, I doubt many people have. I doubt
hadn't at that stage.
No,
and my geography is better than it was, but it's not. It was never that good when I was before.
Well, until Ian started to talk about the Slovakia Gap, I'd never heard of it. I had no idea whatsoever where that was and how that related to Transnistria. It's so you obviously, as time goes on and it keeps cropping up again and again, you inform yourself, so at least you've got a mental grasp of where places are and what relationship. I mean, it's a very strange little island of Russia, almost, you know, this little blob of Russia that's isolated and surrounded. So it's you know, I like I said, I didn't actually realize that Transnistria even existed, you know. So no, and I think that's true as a European, because Britain is basically a part of Europe, even though we're an island. I think it's slightly easier for us to envisage other European countries, because there are a hell of a lot of European countries, but it's slightly easier than it would be for, say, Americans to visualize, because it's right across the other side of the Atlantic, and America has a lot of its own concerns going on. Americans concern themselves with what's going on in America, quite rightly in some respects. And so it's very easy to be uninformed of what's going on elsewhere. So, but obviously in these days of the internet and the whole availability of information of various grades, you might say, you were mentioning that this afternoon. I think both of you and Ian were mentioning AI. And in this current war, this illegal war, it's hard to get away from AI. You look at a picture and you basically have to try and work out, is this AI? Now, I know in some ways you've got a way to backtrack images. I think you mentioned it before. I've not got. You'll have to teach me how to do that, because I don't like making a mistake and posting an AI image. Sometimes an AI, if it's just for illustration purposes, an AI image is fine. That's fine, just in order for people to picture. But in terms of a current event, let's say, I don't know, missile bombardments by Iran or missile bombardments by Israel or whatever, AI is actually part of the fog of war, and it's being used in that way to confuse and misinform people.
Yeah. The problem is there's layers and there's levels, like anything. You've got the blatant rubbish, the blatant crap that's an AI image, and using that AI image to argue a point that isn't true. You've got the true report, so it is a genuine video, a genuine image, and the true report on what's happened. But you've got the middle layers where the report may be true, but they've illustrated it just with an AI image, or they just look for an illustrative. And that you'll find most of the press nowadays will do that. They just put an image up that illustrates it. Well, that's fine when they're saying Trump said such and such, so they put an image of Trump up. Because it doesn't really matter whether that was 6 months ago, 2 years ago, last Tuesday, or Wednesday next. Well, be a little bit probably Wednesday next, but who knows nowadays? Time being and all that. But it's when they illustrate an attack by putting a picture of a missile up. And then they might be putting the picture of the wrong country's missile up because they've just looked for a picture of a missile. And they can therefore be painting a story that isn't true, and they don't even sometimes intend to paint, if you know what I mean, because you pick up on the image, and you pick up. We're all trained with pictures. I think it comes from our earliest comprehension and looking for a picture book. But text, picture. 9 out of 10 people will look at the picture first before they read the text. Pictures are they're
more powerful even than headlines, and very few people read beyond the headlines, and that's how it's like you said. It's easy to mislead people. You just get this headline, and I found this particularly now with these kind of AI voiced reports. You will get a kind of a headline that says, "Oh, this and this happened." Shock, horror, Starmer's government about to collapse or whatever, and you click into it, and you find there isn't any information about that whatsoever. It's just droning on about maybe something that was said in Parliament today or whatever. So that it's almost like it's virtually clickbait. It's just the headline is there to pull you in. Now, if that's harmless and it's just a load of boring stuff, that's all right. But if that headline then starts to pull you into a web of lies and made up rubbish that is given the veneer of truth, and increasingly, I've seen basically AI generated footage, AI generated images increasingly being masqueraded as the truth. Put out there as if it's a truthful report on a truthful incident. I'm thinking, in particular today, I woke up this morning and I saw people were posting images of Netanyahu dead.
Yeah.
I thought, where is the background to this story? So I went looking and I couldn't find anything significant. So I'm thinking, well, somebody somewhere must have clicked into something that told them Netanyahu was dead. And then their first reaction was to repost that.
Yeah.
And therefore they become part of the misinformation web if the story isn't true. And I know you specifically talked about this on at least one of your shows about the way that works. So, and as far as I know, Netanyahu is not dead, and I've not seen any evidence to the contrary. So,
yeah, I can't verify any suggestion that he is. But I was having this exact conversation just before the show, ironically, with the person, because I got sent probably the same as what you saw, but I got sent it privately saying, I've seen this, but I can't see any evidence as to whether it is or isn't true. And I said, I'm going to take a look. And I said, I'm taking a look now, but I couldn't see anything to verify it. But I was sent it privately in a private message saying, I don't know if this is true. Now that I have no problem with whatsoever. That is what we should be doing. If we can't find something, then by all means, set somebody else looking for it, set somebody else to research it as well. Help each other out in that way. It's when people share it publicly without checking their sources. And I mean, some things are more valid than others, but it's when it gives them ammunition, it gives the enemy ammunition, and that's why it winds me up. And it's also, it can be true, but it can be disingenuous too. And I had to pick somebody up, or we've picked somebody I used to part of my old group up earlier. I don't know, this morning or yesterday morning. And it was the age-old immigration one again. But what the actually wording said, if somebody in Britain went to France, you wouldn't get any benefits. If you went to Germany, you wouldn't get any benefits. If you went to, and it went through country after country after country. And I had to go back and say, hang on a minute. If you were an asylum seeker going to France, yes, you would. If you're an asylum seeker to Germany, yes, you would. But the reason it was disingenuous, because he's probably right. If somebody from the UK moved to that country, they probably wouldn't instantly get that. But they're comparing that against people that enter as an asylum seeker. Now, without getting into the rights or wrongs of their claim, we know damn well that the government don't process people fast enough. We know what the problems are. We know all of that. But it's the way it was phrased, because it didn't compare like to like. And it did it deliberately, and it did it by saying, if people from the UK go to such and such, they wouldn't get it. But we're not talking about people from Germany coming here. They're not talking about people from France coming here. They're talking about people that come as an asylum claimant. And like I say, I'm not getting into the argument again. I'm not getting into the debate. I'm talking about how we share information, and when things are deliberately disingenuous.
Yeah.
And that one was.
It's very easy to conflate two issues into one, as if they share a common sort of background, or as if the mechanics of that of the way that works are in any way similar. So yeah, I understand what you're talking about. Yeah, it's but I think that is half the problem today. It is the constant barrage of information that people are presented with, and that's available for them to look at, and on that information there is no filter. There is no definite way, without picking up that information and then researching that information and trying to find out what's actually the true situation. Without doing that, it's like you said, it's very easy to just then spread it around, and it bounces from one to another to another to another. And so the intention of the person who made that statement, who came up with the nuts and bolts of that headline, has therefore achieved their aim, because you have spread it. You have become part of the dissemination network of blatantly misinformation, false information, and downright lies. So yeah, I do think we need to be careful.
Yeah,
so
it is, and it's very deliberate. And I don't. Maybe it's my age, but then most of the people that watch us and most of the people I'm querying are the same age group. So I don't understand the immediate reaching for the share button. I don't understand that. Oh, and I don't understand sharing things. I do in a way, but it's what they share without comment. If you share something that's a bit of information, then people should be able to draw their own conclusions from that.
Yeah.
If you share something that's very much from a side, very much got a spin on it without a word, the unwritten suggestion is that you agree with it. I'm trying to be careful how I phrase it.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
I'm trying to differentiate between someone who will share a general report that they may not disagree, they may not agree with every part of it, but there's something in it that you can get from it, and something that you can deduct from that yourself and should be able to draw the conclusions yourself. And someone that shares somebody that's ranting about whatever their pet subject is at that particular moment in time, ranting about human rights things in Iran or something, you know what I mean? Because as soon as you have that spin on it, you share that without comment, everyone's going to take it that you agree with that.
Yeah, it's a kind of tacit agreement between you and the sharer, or that the sharer is you almost seems to be, because they shared it with you, it gives you the impression that they agree with it. Now, Richard is quite good Richard Rushford is quite good. I don't know what he does with you, but when, and I'm not bigging you up, Richard, or you know, I'm not criticizing you either. When he shares something with me, normally there will be some content, and he premises the share with things like, what do you think about this? Or do you think there's any validity in this? Or it's quite, and I think that's quite a healthy thing to do, because you might see something and you might think, I really don't know what the backstory to this is. I really don't know I might not agree personally with it, but I might be taking the wrong side. What do you think? So I think that's quite healthy to do that, because then you can then genuinely reply and say, well, I think there's something in it, or I think this is bullshit, but that's only my opinion. So that's a kind of healthy sharing. But I suppose anybody watching has to bear in mind that myself and you and Ian are bombarded with things that are shared from other people. And so we don't get to, if I was to sit and watch everything that people share with me, I'd never get anything done, and if I was then to reply to everybody, I'd never get anything done. It would take up my whole day. So don't be don't be
don't reply.
if I don't reply to you, if Alex doesn't reply to you, if Ian doesn't reply to you, it's not that we haven't seen the information, but it's just another. It's like the office, where just when you get to the end of your pile of paperwork that you've got through, somebody dumps a whole load of new paperwork, and that paperwork just keeps mounting up and becoming never ending, and it's like trying to reply to every email you ever get. It's sometimes not possible, so you have to prioritize. So anyway, that's a little bit of housekeeping and information combined, but don't be put out if you don't get a reply, or if you might just get a thumbs up or something like that. It means I have looked at your post, but there are a lot of other things going on. So okay, all righty. What have we got in terms of the show? Where would you like to start now that we've sort of done a bit of
half an hour waffle?
A bit of waffle.
It got to be done. Well, let's go with one of the. It's hard not to be talking about Iran at some level, so let's go with that. I think I put your boots on the ground one up first. I think slide-wise.
Right. Okay. Now this is something that you two were talking about. You and Ian were talking about this afternoon, and that is the possibility of US, perhaps Israeli, and perhaps other countries' troops going into Iran. So, like I said, had I been on the show, that this short piece would have probably formed part of the commentary on that. So, anyone who watched the Man in Black show on Friday will know that I briefly looked at Iran's air power, mostly in relation to its missile and drone capabilities. And I also looked at the US, America's air and defensive capabilities. And I also looked at Israel. So tonight I'm going to briefly outline the overall strength and some of Iran's what you do call ground power. Okay. So in terms of its overall strength, Iran is ranked at number 16 out of 145 countries on what's called the Global Firepower Index, or the GFP. Now, the GFP has been running for quite a lot of years, and it is updated every year. Now, what the GFP does, the Global Firepower Index does, is it uses an aggregate of 5 main categories in order to rank a country in terms of its strength. Okay. And those five categories are manpower, air power, land power, naval power, and finances. Finances being the ability to finance and sustain its forces. Now, out of those 5 categories, the organization that puts the Global Firepower Index together say that manpower is manpower is the most important category in the GFP index. Let's look at slide 1, please, Alex. They also do an awful lot of comparisons and things like that. And this is a comparison, if you look at this slide, comparing Iran to Israel. Now, you will see, if you look at the top left, number of military personnel. These are active military personnel serving in the armed forces of either Israel or Iran. And you can see there that Israel has 169,500 active personnel, and Iran has 610,000 active personnel. So you will see, you can draw the conclusion that Iran has a lot more people in uniform than Israel does. And then we move through the categories like ground forces. Israel having around 400 tanks, and Iran having around 10,513 battle tanks. And again, you can work your way through, and you can make the comparison. Now, where Israel wins out on this one is in terms of combat aircraft, because we know that the Israeli Defense Force is supplied by the US, and so it has more modern aircraft. It has more modern aircraft than Iran. Okay. And like I say, you can work your way through the categories, but manpower is the category, like I said, that that the GFP index basically says is the first thing you should look at. But it's not the only factor that the GFP index considers, because when you're looking at manpower, it also considers a country's ability to supply manpower should the need arise. So not just the current men in uniform, men and women in uniform. It looks at the fact of, given a crisis, what resources in terms of manpower can a country draw on? And they do this by starting off with total population. Now, Iran's total population is around about 88.4 million people, of which 49.5 million people are what is called available manpower. And And then if you then subdivide available manpower, which they do, they come up with a figure of 41.5 million being described as fit for service, i.e. young and fit enough for training, basically. And then they have a category which is people reaching military age every year. And according to their figures, around about 1.4 million people reach military age annually in Iran. Now, combining all of these factors, the GFP index estimates Iran's potential manpower strength, and that includes both serving and available for call-up, currently to be around 1,180,000 people available right now. Okay. Now the summary then goes on to estimate. Slide 2, please, Alex. Okay, this is just an illustrative slide. The survey goes on to estimate what Iran's capabilities in terms of manpower would be over a 4-year period starting from mobilization. So they're kind of taking a scenario where a country has to mobilize its forces, mobilize its population, and they then project this over a 4-year period, slicing it up into certain points. So what they say is at the 6 to 12 month point, Iran would have 1,887,000 men under arms. So 6 months from now, if this war continues 6 months from now, that would be the figure available to Iran. So they would be, therefore fighters with at least 6 to 12 months of training. Okay. Now by 2 years, this rises to 2,976,730. So they're pretty granular with their figures. By year 3, this rises to 4,691,814. And finally, if Iran were to continue in a state of mobilization, by year 4, Iran would have 6,765,351 available troops. Now, this is not counting losses in combat, which would obviously reduce that number on an ongoing basis. But what you can see is that Iran, given a protracted war system, would actually grow in manpower over time. If this war dragged on for 4 years, it would have almost 7 million men and women under arms, and that is a huge number. And the Americans and the Israelis are well aware of these numbers, because if you and I can find these figures, they surely can just look at the GPF index and see, can we actually afford an extended war with these people? All right, so that's manpower. Like I said, the category that the GPF index says is quite possibly the most important. Slide 3, please, Alex. Now, in terms of armored vehicles, we just touched on there before, Iran is estimated to have around 2,675 tanks. And they divide that up into what are called combat-ready tanks and tanks that are currently being serviced. Now, these figures are estimates. Okay, so you've got a figure, but what they do is estimate how many are today combat ready, or combat ready in the view of this organization. And they say they have around about 1,605 tanks that could see service. They're combat ready. Now, given the current circumstances, there is no doubt that Iran has put a lot of effort into getting all its tanks combat ready. Okay, and it's actually added at least 1,000 armored vehicles last year to its forces. Slide 4, please, Alex. Okay, just a tank. But Iran has added to its forces. Okay. Now, in terms of armored vehicles, Iran is estimated, that's armored vehicles apart from what you call main battle tanks. It's estimated to have around 76,000, of which 45.5 thousand are combat ready. It also has 424 self-propelled artillery units. So they're basically like tanks with bigger guns. It has around about 1,600 rocket artillery units. So all of that is a lot of potential manpower and ground power. So you've got a serious enemy if you are considering a ground war with Iran. Now, one factor that you might say works both in Iran's favor and also against it is Iran's borders. Let's look at slide 5. Please, Alex. Another one before. Oops.
Something's going weird.
There we go. Okay. Okay. Now, as I said before, sometimes it's hard to envisage. We were just talking about this. It's hard to envisage the sort of geographic location and the surrounding countries of any particular country. Now, as you can see here, Iran has land borders with, I think it's about 7 other countries. It also has quite a long border along the Persian Gulf, okay, and through the Straits of Hormuz into the Indian Ocean, where it borders with Pakistan. Now, in terms of Israel's capacity to project ground power, Israel is almost totally reliant on the US if it wishes to move its own army into contact with Iran. And you can see over there, where Israel is in geographic location. Slide 6, please, Alex. So if it wishes to move combat vehicles and combat troops into contact with Iran, it will have to do so by using US air bases that are close to Iran. Now, moving armor is much slower than just moving manpower. And so there's really little possibility that Iran can do this by land. As looking at Israel's geographic location, it would require a long trek across Jordan and Iraq. Not impossible, but extremely logistically difficult. And going the long way through Syria would expose its forces to Hezbollah attacks. So you might say that in this case, Iran's geographic location is in its advantage, because it's logistically, in terms of Israel's ground forces, it's logistically very difficult and complex to get, especially combat vehicles, into contact with Iran. Now, the US, as I see it, have basically two options. If they wish to move significant manpower and armor into Iran, if you look at these estimated figures of forces in US bases surrounding or near Iran, they're quite low, and many of those forces are not actually combat troops. Now, in terms of what America could do in order to project land power into Iran, it has a couple of options, really. One, it could go, if you look on that map, it could go via Kuwait and basically cut across the corner of Iran in order to enter, cut across the corner of Iraq, sorry, in order to, whoops, in order.
Oh, excuse me. Don't know what's going on.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Oh,
there we go. Back to that
it's doing weird things because I didn't press anything then, to my knowledge.
Yeah, that is weird. So it could put its ground forces, as I was just saying, into Kuwait, and then basically take them across the corner of Iraq and bring them into contact with Iran. The other option is for it to mount an amphibious landing along the Persian Gulf. And this would really have to be at scale, a scale maybe approaching, something like we haven't seen since the D-Day landings. This is the kind of scale you're looking at. And it appears from reports that have been coming back that this might be the chosen strategy. Slide 7, please, Alex. Where are we? Okay. I'm sorry about the Getty images. Feel free to sue me, Getty. Well, one day they will. I'm not tempting fate. Now, if recent probing attacks, now I don't know if you've read about American forces coming into contact with Iran when they mounted an operation across the Persian Gulf. This, you might say, represented a probing attack, testing the reactions, testing the readiness of Iran's forces to defend its border along the Persian Gulf. So that's kind of that might be a kind of indication of the way that the US, should it choose to put boots on the ground, may choose to attack Iran. Okay. Now, what they've also been trying to do is to use proxy forces. And the way I view this is this might be a factor in this strategy, because these proxy forces are coming from the north. Should they actually do this? attacks from the north by the Kurds and the Azerbaijanis might be part of a strategy that is calculated to split Iran's forces and therefore weaken its resilience to an assault from the Persian Gulf. It's very World War II or any war strategic thinking, in order to, if you are thinking about making an attack in a certain place, you then try to draw off the enemy's forces to a different location. And this was done in World War II on D-Day by the Allies giving the impression that their intended target was Calais. And then you get into things like Operation Mincemeat and false, very simplistic sort of methods of getting this message across. All right. But in all of this, well, two things really I see are almost inevitable. If the US do decide to put boots on the ground in Iran, then they will have to accept, and the US public will have to accept massive casualties. And not only massive casualties, but casualties over a protracted period. Now, estimates are that just for the Americans to get one armored division over to Iran, ready to go to Iran, is going to take around about 9 months. And that's 9 months Israel doesn't have. At the current rate of bombardment, I think, like Ian was pointing out, 9 months, you might as well be saying 9 years, because Tel Aviv will be wiped off the face of the map. Israel will cease to exist if this rate of Iranian bombardment keeps up. Okay, so they're caught between a rock and a hard place. If they choose to mount a land invasion, boots on the ground in Iran, and are not fully prepared, then the American forces are going to get their ass handed to them, and they must be aware of this. Okay, and just like I was saying on Friday, it's true to say that no country was ever overthrown by air power alone. But Iran is not like any other country. It's not like any other country the US has invaded for a very long time. It's one with a very large military force. It's fighting on home soil, and it's in a fight for its very survival. So don't expect the Iranians to surrender. They will fight, and they will keep fighting until the Zio-American empire basically has to give in. So that is partly statistics, and that is partly just accepted wisdom. If it's going to take 9 months to get just one armored division brought to bear upon Iran, that's a very long time in modern warfare. 9 months is a very long time. Developments could go, a lot can happen. And a lot can happen to Israel in that time. So that's why I'm kind of putting forward this question: will the US, dare to do this? Will the US be ready to do this? No, I believe they won't be ready to do this. Will the US try this without being fully ready? That is a distinct possibility, but they will get their ass kicked. They will get sustain serious casualties. And whether or not the American public can accept not hundreds but thousands of its troops coming back in body bags, or just being lost on foreign soil, is a question. We saw this in Vietnam. We've seen it in other combat situations. So that was my look at what you might call boots on the ground. Okay, it was rather a long piece, but it's I think it needed all that relevance to be put in there. Okay.
One thing I've got to ask is, you're defining, or whoever's chart that was, is dividing your tanks between operational and sort of under service, if you like. Shouldn't they be dividing them into operational, under service, and inflatable?
Yeah. And we and you talked about this on the show today, and between us privately, we talked about this last night, I believe. Yeah, I think we even went to the extent of looking on Temu to see what you could buy.
We'll see if you could
and you can buy inflatable tanks, inflatable rocket artillery pieces, and you can buy the whole works. Obviously not as professional as what the Russians are turning out. But this is not a new tactic. This is not a new tactic. Not at all. There was a long history of building entire. To the extent that Britain even tried to build a false London that would keep its lights on to attract enemy bombers, and it as part of the D-Day obfuscation, it placed inflatables and canvas mock-up tanks in positions that looked like they were assembling for that attack on Calais. So it was all part of the overall deception. So it's not a new tactic, but it currently, it seems to be working. It seems to have worked. And it's attracting, expensive aircraft to drop expensive weapons on very cheap, cheap blow up or painted on the bloody ground models. So old tactics are not necessarily bad tactics. No.
No, sorry, but
I find this almost salivation. The Trump administration almost seems to be champing at the bit to put its troops in harm's way.
Yeah.
And my considered opinion is that they are not ready to do this. They are not ready to do this in a way that could in any way defeat the standing armies of Iran at this point. And in order to reach anywhere near that point, to begin to build a bridgehead to actually establish any kind of presence in Iran, it's going to take months of preparation in order to bring these forces to bear. And that is time that Israel does not have. Israel cannot stand 9 months of this bombardment. And we're coming up into the second week, and it already appears that Israel is running out of air defense missiles. We know that the US have been rationing what they're firing. They have expended, as I was pointing this out on Friday, they've expended a lot of their usable Tomahawks, which is their mainstay of standoff attack. They've expended a lot of that, and both Israel and the US are going to have to rely on what you call gravity bombs. They're going to have to resort to the old-fashioned tactic of physically sending aircraft over Iran, and even that is not going to. It's not going to win the war. You don't win a war without winning the country in one way or another. And air power has a great capacity to degrade a country's ability to fight, but it also has the converse effect of bolstering morale. We've seen this in every conflict, especially when a civilian population comes under bombardment, they don't simply collapse and degenerate into sobbing and wringing of hands. It has the opposite effect. It strengthens their morale. And with such a capacity to recruit manpower, Iran can very quickly, in my opinion, given 9 months, let's say it's 9 months before an armored division could roll onto Iranian soil, they can boost their manpower by a very, very significant amount, and it depends on supply. Even if they have, because obviously sanctions have had a part, but Iran has still managed to modernize its military to put into the field, new missiles, new models of tanks, new drones, all of this has not really affected their ability to construct a modern, well-armed war machine, or a machine for defense, so you might say. So I think that the Americans would be very ill advised to do what Netanyahu wants and put boots on the ground. So that's my opinion.
It's a mentality in a way as well, because we touched on this on your show on Friday, but it's the mentality of the people. It's the mentality of the different participants.
Yeah.
And I can't help thinking that Iran will accept losses better than the American public will.
Yeah.
Rightly or wrongly, good or bad, I don't see them being broken by losing people.
No.
They don't have the same mindset as America will have, and America don't understand their mindset. They're boasting and they're still bragging about taking out Khomeini, but they killed off a man in his 80s that wasn't hiding.
Yeah. Turned him into a martyr.
He wasn't hiding and turned him into a martyr. And that's the bit that they don't understand from the other side. But he wasn't hiding, and they're bragging and boasting about it. But that has probably unified Iran and the people of Iran more than anything else they could have done. And I'm not going so far to say he wanted to be taken out, but I think he was accepting of the possibility.
Oh, yeah.
Because he didn't hide.
No, definitely. I mean, he was prepared to die with and for his people. And just like you said there, if anything, his death has galvanized Iran, and the bombardment that Iran is receiving is also galvanizing its people. And so I'm sure that their recruiting capacity has been many, many, many times boosted by this, and they're going to be able to field a hell of a lot more than the estimates that were based on 2025 estimates that I gave you. And what were I think the figure for given even a 6-month period would see Iran able to field more than 1 million men, women, whoever is fighting. So and the longer that the conflict goes on, the more Iran's capabilities actually increase, despite whatever losses they take. They have a very large pool to draw on. And I think the biggest factor in this, well, biggest two factors, and one we've just mentioned, is the mindset of the Iranian people and the fact that they are fighting on, if they end up fighting on their own territory, on their own soil, then they will fight harder than everybody will defend their country, defend their homeland more than those troops sent on a yet another foreign adventure.
Yeah.
So, especially, even if there is, and Ian mentioned it this afternoon, there appears to be an increasing unwillingness to participate in yet another war on behalf of Israel.
Yeah. There definitely seems to be, and I don't know if they've done the polls in America, but I know they had a figure of 11% in the UK that said they were prepared to fight for the UK.
Yeah, and that's
and that's in the younger age groups as well. That's in the brainwashed age groups. They're still not prepared to fight and die for the country. The king and country is dead. The mentality is dead.
Yeah.
There is another way they're trying to fight that, but I'm not going to get into that tonight. But it's a completely different mindset, and Iran's been under sanctions for so long. It's had economic warfare waged on it for so long. It hasn't had it easy. It hasn't had any part of its life easy. And they say easy times. No, what is it? Easy time. I don't know. But anyway, it basically affects
soft men, hard times.
Yes.
Breed hard men.
Yeah. Basically.
And they've had it hard.
And they've had it hard.
They understand where the sanctions have come from, and like you said, Iran's been under sanctions basically since 1979.
Yeah.
So its populace are used to surviving under conditions, and despite that, despite all of these sanctions, Iran has managed to come up with a homegrown defense industry that can rival production rates of any defense, well, outstrip most. It has bolstered its capacity over decades because it knew wisely, its leaders knew that at some point they would be they would be where they are now. They would be attacked, because that has been on the cards ever since 1979. This attack has been coming since then, and its leadership have always known this, and so they have prepared. And there is nothing worse than a well-prepared enemy. Looking at it from the opposite side, a well-prepared, well-entrenched, well-armed, well-motivated enemy is probably, the worst fight you will ever have. It's not fighting a few natives with sharpened fruit. You are fighting a determined enemy who have prepared and who are very well motivated. So if, like I said, if the US is prepared to go ahead with this adventure, then they should expect major casualties. And casualties, the longer they stay, the longer they try, those casualties will mount and mount and mount.
And this is where it's impossible, because there's no easy answer for them to put boots on the ground. And if they do put boots on the ground, they're going to get more than the bloody nose, as they put it. You know what I mean? It's. But at that point,
I mean, Iran may suffer itself. Iran may suffer. You know, I mean, the Americans, in terms of things like ground attack aircraft, like the A-10 Warthog, they've got some very good ground attack aircraft, but they will need all and everything that they've got. They will have to deploy far more troops than they've got in position right now. They will have to massively increase the amount of troops that are going, that are in country, or transiting to country. And the biggest problem that they have is not so much the manpower that they can fly over, but all of the other instruments of war, especially when you're talking about ground attack. You're talking about armor, you're talking about armored vehicles, you're talking about support vehicles, you're talking about helicopters. A whole logistical operation will take months to build up a force big enough to give any sort of confidence of success.
Yeah, and like I say, when the problem, like we said before, and so many times, is when they find out they can't do that, it's not going to work, or they do it and lose horrifically, because then what is the backup plan?
No, there is no backup plan. The only backup plan is the sum of all fears. The backup plan is to, and I no doubt this is, well, I've spoken about this. The backup plan is to nuke them, and that is a serious consideration. I've no doubt this conversation has been had in the halls of the Pentagon in Washington, and between Netanyahu and Trump. I've no doubt of that whatsoever. So if I was Iran, I would make sure that I bloody well got nuclear weapons, that I advanced. If they haven't got them already, I would be making every single effort to make sure that I enriched enough uranium to build nuclear weapons, because that is Iran's only option. Then will be to strike back, because like Ian pointed out today, Iran's a big country. Iran's the size of continental Europe. It's going to take a lot of nuclear weapons to wipe out Iran. So even if tactical nuclear weapons were used on the missile cities, a nuclear response against Israel would take very few nuclear weapons to wipe the whole country off the map. 3, possibly 4, at most 5. Large enough nuclear weapons, modern nuclear weapons, would eradicate Iran, because it's a very small country comparatively. With only really 2 major cities, Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, and some smaller cities.
But it might eradicate it. It won't eradicate it before it activates Samson.
Oh no.
It will preemptively, if it thinks it's got to that stage, it will preemptively activate the Samson Doctrine. They're already talking about it. It always comes back.
And then you have to look outside of the country. You then have to look at the words of Kim Jong-il, who said, basically, if you use nuclear weapons against Iran, we're going to wade in. We're going to wade in with ours, because we've got people in country. We've got people in Iran helping the Iranian forces. And the threat from Kim Jong-il was, if only one of their personnel were killed, they would come in on this war. And then you have the beginnings of a full-blown nuclear war. Spreading outwards, ever outwards, as more and more countries become involved. And so in that way, these fucking Christian Zionist idiots will get their Armageddon.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, by the time Jesus arrives, there'll be very few people left to, to greet him, you might say, when he appears in the sky above Damascus. The extent of lunacy in this entire way of thinking that you can just roll Iran up like an old carpet, is not going to work, and it's going to be it's going to spread. It's going to drag in other countries, and if it starts to bring in the big nuclear players, then we're going to see Armageddon, basically. Then we're going to see this conflict spiral outwards in an ever increasing circle of destruction. Okay. And on that happy note.
Yeah. But it's just trying to think, because 79 to 89, 99, 2009, 2019 to 26, you're talking 47 years they've been after Iran.
Yeah.
They know deep down, the layers that have been in power between then and now know how they know it's not an easy nut to crack. They've known that if they've taken 47 years to go for it, they've known it's going to be a hard job. So we know in many ways, but that's the point. Something has changed now to make them do that.
I think it's the reason. One of the reasons is Israel's a bit like Santa. Israel has a list, and it's been checking it twice, and it's been working its way through that list with the help of its cat's paw, you might say, in terms of using America to attack country after country. So it's been ticking that list off. And as far as American and Israeli strategic aims are concerned, they are symbiotic. They are one and the same. And so America has been very willing to pursue and support the aims of Israel because those aims ally with its own regional strategy. And so it's attacked country after country after country, weakening some to the point, where the countries become failed states, which suits Israel very well indeed, because Israel does not like to have any country within what it considers its orbit to be anywhere near as strong as it. It wants countries to be. It wants to be surrounded by weak, manipulative countries that it can bend to its will, and this, in a way, is part of the greater Israel strategy, because when we look at the sort of the so-called promise, Israel views some of that promise not in terms of physical takeover. It regards a lot in terms of physical takeover, but in other ways, what it's trying to build is an empire of the subservient around it, who it can bend to its will, and can play off against one another. And this is going back to the idea that I was talking about with Iran. There is an idea to break up Iran into much smaller, more easily controllable areas or small countries based on ethnic or religious or things like that. Everybody gets their own little country, and all those countries will be weak. All those countries will be controllable. All those countries can be exploited. So that is kind of part of the thinking of Greater Israel. Yeah.
Do they think?
Oh, I think they think very long and they think very hard, and they've been thinking about this for a very long time. They've never stopped thinking about invading other countries since they're since they created themselves. They've been at war ever since they created themselves, and they've managed to get away with attacking other countries.
That's true.
Preemptively. They say, "Oh, we had to," like the 1967 war. If you listen to Israel, they were suddenly attacked by 7 countries, by all these countries at once. Israel started that war.
They've already changed it with the current one. It's been going just over a week. And they've already changed it to say, we didn't start this, but we're definitely going to finish it. No, you literally did start it. Everybody knows you literally did start it. But they're already rewriting history.
This propaganda will not wash any longer. There are too many people with too much access to too much information. And what I think, in a way, what Gaza did, was lift the lid. Yeah. It started to make people look at Israel, look at its foundation, look at its motivation, look at Zionism, because that's what we're talking about here. Yeah. Look at it started, and I've made extensive efforts to try and peel the lid off of Zionism in all its putricity, if that's a word. If it's not, I've just made it up. The filth that's underneath the thin veneer of Israel's lies. Yeah. And those lies have now crumbled to the point where most of the world, apart from the fuckwits who are still dancing to Israel's tune, have realized that Israel is almost like a cancer upon this earth. It has metastasized, expanded, and is now threatening wider and wider and wider areas. And so, like any good surgeon, that cancer needs to be cut out, or it needs to be suppressed. It needs to be kept under control, because so far no one has been willing to do that, because it's like having a cancer that's got an outside agent and said, you better not get that cancer treated. You better not get, or otherwise I'm going to do something to you. Oh, no, I'll just leave that cancer alone, And whenever you leave a cancer alone, it will grow. So that I think that's the situation that people have started to realize, that what we're looking at is a cancer. Zionism is a cancer that is polluted, infected, and spread its tentacles into every country.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. That's my little rant.
The problem is, people have realized, the world has realized, you say, but certainly the global majority has realized, but the Western world, the leadership, are still backing them 100%.
Yeah.
And there are still fuckwits that are backing them, way too many. The problem is we don't see, and it's been bugging me for a while now, but we don't see the true figures, the true response. I'm seeing ridiculous propaganda, and from what I see on Facebook, it looks like nobody's falling for it. It looks like everyone's seeing straight through it. But I don't think I'm seeing the whole story. I've said a couple of weeks back now, I'm convinced that Facebook is filtering not just what I see with the algorithm, but the replies I see. I'm only seeing the replies that agree with my mindset, my viewpoint. I'm not seeing the ones that go against it.
Yeah.
Because it's coming up on things that I know the breakdown, even within the people that watch us on here, are not 100%. And it's coming up, what I'm seeing is practically 100%.
Yeah.
So we don't see how far we have to go in getting the truth out. In a way, we don't see how many people are still swallowing the lies.
Yeah.
We're blinded, we're blinkered, we can't see. We're not blinkered about what's going on, but we're blinkered against what the world thinks, because we can only see what the algorithm shows us. And that's another thing that's very deliberate and very intentional.
Oh, well, that's exactly what Netanyahu said. That's exactly what Netanyahu said. He said the biggest challenge we face at the minute is the media, and we are taking steps to basically make sure. Now, most of the bought and paid for Western media is in their court, with a few exceptions. They are. I mean, God, there's a no, I'm not even going to go there. Because I was going to directly criticize, but it doesn't. There is and has been a concerted effort by the Israeli intelligence services and the Israeli machine that puts its tentacles out into all of our country, America, and elsewhere, to ensure that the media, and that includes social media, is muted and policed and as far as possible controlled in what it allows. They would dearly like to see criticism of Israel criminalized. And this is becoming more and more the case in some states. Criticizing Israel becomes a criminal offense.
Yeah.
Since when is criticizing anybody a criminal offense? You can be locked up for saying, I think Starmer's a fuckwit.
I'd like to argue that one in court, to be fair, so they can try it. Because it is not, I maintain that it is not an insult. It is not a criticism.
It's an opinion.
It is an observation of simple facts. His wits are clearly fucked. There you go. He is a fuckwit.
Yeah.
And I would argue that one in court, to be fair. So, probably wouldn't do nowadays, because it would be trial without a jury and whatever else. AI judge probably, but.
Well, the easiest thing, once you're in a totalitarian state, then information doesn't even matter any longer. No. Information doesn't matter, because only the opinion of those in power matters, and your voice has no impact. And if you use that voice, then you will find yourself locked up, or worse. Yeah.
No. Okay. It doesn't.
Right. I think we've perhaps kicked the arse out of that one. I could kick the arse out of it all night, but honestly, I could. The depth of my feeling is it's deep. It's deep. Okay.
My two tonight are kind of quite short. So my first one is Cuba, as in they've not let Cuba off the hook. And I haven't got many slides, so just put something up to illustrate. But the point is that Cuba's still very clearly still on their list. They've announced it again just recently, following on from the latest 24-hour nationwide blackout that it's been suffering under, because they have reduced its fuel and whatever of what's getting through, to the point that the populations are currently suffering intermittent 24-hour blackouts. But Trump says it's just a question of time before they will come to the table, before they want a deal. I know they want a deal, and we just need to keep the pressure. We just need to keep the pressure on by ensuring that people have no fuel getting through, no ability to, well, do anything that you need electricity for, which nowadays is pretty much the entirety of modern life. But this is where it gets back in many ways again to a mindset, because Cuba's another place that has been making do and getting by for the last so many years. The reason you get the whole tourist thing with all the classic cars in Cuba is because they've been getting by and making do for the last so many years.
Mm.
So you put 24-hour blackouts, you get them in that situation, and they're cook on firewood. They will get past it. They will find ways around it. But it was back to the whole mentality of the big bully of the American state again. I mean, this is how insane it gets with Trump's ramblings, because he was announcing all this to the Inter Milan football team because the basically the guy in charge of it's Cuban born. And he said they sat there, and I don't know how he got to this thing, because the actual stories I was finding didn't say what he was doing with the Inter Milan football team. But he's there and he's bragging and he's saying, "Oh, I think we're very close now. We're definitely sorting it, and we'll be celebrating soon what's gone on with Cuba." And this is what he's announcing to bloody football teams. He can't keep his mouth shut. He doesn't know what to say and when to say it. But then he goes on and he says, "We're going to put Marco over there." So I'm not sure whether they're planning to send it, whether he's got an eye of sending him in again, because he started broaching this when he was talking about Venezuela. Has he got eyes of sending him in again as some sort of governorship, or is this to negotiate? But he never seems to have a coherent thought. When you're talking 9 months to put troops on the ground, he's going to have 9 times 30 changes of mind in between that. And he can't keep his views from one side 1 minute to the next. But he's going to sort it. They're going to come to the table soon, and he's going to put Marco over there and see how that works out. It's just the same nonsense day in, day out. It's the same attitude with Venezuela. It's the same attitude. And obviously they put in the same what they've done with, with Ukraine, not with Ukraine specifically, but with threatening people for buying anything from Russia. They're doing the same, threatening anybody who might supply oil to Cuba. They're putting that same pressure on. They put in that same economic warfare on. It's the same playbook over and over again. And it just, you know what I mean? It drives me around the bend with it, because there is no sense in it. There's no logic. And it just at this stage seems like a big kid in the playground pushing the little Fursha to the floor.
Yeah. Cuba is just another example. We were just talking about Iran being under sanctions since 1979. Yeah. Cuba has been under sanctions since around about 1960. Ever since the revolution. Yeah. And Cuba has lived on. I've been to Cuba. Its people have been living under what amounts to basically a siege, and they have developed a siege mentality. They have become very self-sufficient. They've come up with ways of coping with the withering sanctions that they have had placed on them, and they have become very resilient. So again, it's a very similar case to Iran. They're fiercely Well, they're fiercely proud of their country. The Cubans love Cuba. They love living in Cuba. Most Cubans, given the option even to leave, even under the situation, wouldn't choose to leave because they love Cuba. So again, this is the same situation, and I feel that what Trump has decided to do is to try and finish all of these issues, as you might say, the issue with Iran, the issue with Cuba. I am going to fix this. I'm going to bring all this to an end, and everybody will think I'm probably, the best president that has ever lived because I have sorted out the Iranian problem. I have sorted out the Cuban problem. I've eradicated those problems. So let's suspend the Constitution. I can become president for life. Yeah. Maybe.
There isn't a Cuban problem. There wasn't a Cuban problem. There wasn't an Iranian problem.
No.
None of these problems exist apart from in America's head and Israel's head.
The thing about Cuba is that back in 1962, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, the whole issue was Cuba poses a threat to the US because Cuba is going to allow Russians to site nuclear missiles within 93 miles, I think it is, of Florida. Now, that is a real
to Russia.
Yeah, you know where I'm going. You know where I'm going. But yet, on the other hand, why should anybody have a problem? Why should Iran have a problem with being surrounded by dozens and dozens of American Air Force bases, all of which pose a direct threat to it? Why should Russia be concerned that nuclear-armed NATO keeps pushing further and further and further onto its borders? They're not problems anyone should worry about. What we should worry about is when somebody has done the same to us. I mean, I don't know.
Do they not see the hypocrisy?
No.
Do they actually? I can't. I'm not actually convinced they can genuinely see it.
No, they don't, because they use double standards. There is America and what you might call the collective West, which represents the right way of thinking, the way things should be and the way things should remain. Things should remain exactly how they were after World War II, when the Bretton Woods Agreement put America in charge of the world's economy. And that cannot be challenged because that is the righteous way. That is the only way. America must maintain its hegemony forever. And it cannot be challenged. And if anybody even starts to challenge that, then there is only one solution, and that is to go to war with them in order to defend a system that became corrupt not long after its inception. By 1971, America had reneged on everything that it promised to do in the Bretton Woods agreements. So it took a brief period from 1949 to 1971 until America had reneged on its promise, because America was supposed to be the currency standard for the world, and it was based on gold. But by 1971, America had printed so much currency that it had nowhere near the gold to cover it. So it had cheated on that system. And so the whole thing started to fall apart from that point onwards. And what we're seeing now is the direct historical ripples that spread out from those times, in that countries started to say, well, we don't want to be part of this system. We don't want to be part of the central banking system. We don't. In fact, we're going to start to have trading relations with ourselves. We're going to set up our own interbank trading arrangements. We're going to do it our way, and we're not going to be pushed around any longer by a country that has no morals, that doesn't stick to what it said it was going to do. But that's unacceptable. That is unacceptable. It's against the rules-based order where we make the rules and you take the orders. That's that's the way it is.
You make the rules and you obey them.
We make the rules. You obey the rules. What about you obey the? Look, do as I say, not what I do. Yeah. That's the situation we're in right now. And Cuba is an example of that. It's today, Cuba is a relatively harmless, lovely Caribbean destination that should be a beautiful, tourist area that would. Sorry about the bell. That's my order of 15 inflatable tanks coming in. I don't know what postage costs are to Iran, but I'll work that out later. Okay. Cuba poses no threat to anybody, and all Trump wants to do is strangle it because it isn't part of his system, and perhaps he would like to establish what we talked about before, this technocracy, this idea of a kind of American technocracy that dominates everything from the Arctic to the South Pole in the Western Hemisphere. So maybe that's part of it as well. That there are a lot of factors at play and a lot of idiots, but that's where we are. Cuba's sanctions should have been lifted years ago. It would have cooperated with the US. It would have. It was already basically, but when I was there, it was using the US dollar.
Yeah.
It was using the US dollar as currency. That was how you bought stuff. Nobody wanted the Cuban peso. But it tried to strengthen itself in terms of its own currency and stopped people using the US dollar because it was undermining its economy, basically.
Yeah.
But it survived. It survived and it got by. And it's despite what its massive next door bully of a neighbor has tried to do to it.
Yeah. I think the problem is that, he did have Linda McMahon in the administration at one point, but Trump's still stuck on the old WWE heel mentality. Win if you can, lose if you must, but always cheat.
Yeah. You've got to cheat. Yeah.
Sorry.
I know. It's in these current circumstances, the Cuban situation is one of those things that's kind of pushed to the back of people's minds. But it's an ongoing situation. It's not only ongoing, but America has tightened its sanctions on Cuba. It is trying to basically strangle the life out of Cuba to the point where it cries uncle and allows the US to roll in and take it over. I think that's the plan. That's always been the plan. But there was an extended period where relations were fairly, Cubans never wouldn't allow Americans to visit. Fine if you were Canadian or British or anybody else, but not Americans, because they're the ones imposing the sanctions on us. So no, sod off. You can't come here. And those Cubans that left in '59 were part of a system that had been set up in Cuba that was basically mafia run. the Cuban economy was being run by American gangsters, drug dealers, and pedophiles. It was the mafia playground. It's where people went for debauchery and gambling and all the things you couldn't get away with in America. You went to Cuba to do that. And when the Cuban people had finally had enough and turned on their, the people who were running the country, that all of these gangsters fled. If you ever watched the film Scarface, that's the premise of where he came from. He was a Cuban, somebody who fled Cuba as part of this wave of gangsters that were thrown out and reestablished themselves in America and got involved in all of the drug dealing and prostitution and everything that they were carrying on with in Cuba. And Cuba cleansed itself of that. So, yeah, that's Cuba. That's Cuba.
Yeah.
Beautiful place. Absolutely beautiful. Stunningly beautiful. Because of the relative lack of development, there are some absolutely beautiful hotels in the on the coast in Cuba, because they were trying to attract foreign tourists, foreign investment. And so they provided some very nice facilities, 5-star, 6-star facilities. But the environment is untouched. It's almost pristine. The oceans are the sea is gin clear, warm, teeming with fish. There are land animals everywhere. It's potentially a paradise of a country that has been sledgehammered by America since the 1960s, and that needs to stop, in my opinion. And Cuba can then re-establish probably good relations with everybody.
Yeah. Okay, well, talking about the international relations and viewpoints, I think we'll move on to your second one.
Okay. All right. So, basically, as this war continues, China and Russia have both essentially stated their positions clearly. Let's look at slide 1, please, Alex, in this section.
Yeah.
Okay. So yesterday, China's foreign minister urged all sides to return to the negotiation table and to do this as quickly as possible. And he called for Iran's sovereignty to be respected, saying China demands an immediate stop. Excuse me, that's my dinner coming back. China demands an immediate stop to military operations in the Middle East. Now, this is Mr. Wang Yi, as I say, who's China's foreign minister. And he told reporters that plotting color revolutions or seeking governmental change will find no popular support either in the US or Iran. And we have seen this in operation. And you were just mentioning the support figures of around about 11%. So there is no support for this war in America. And there is no real spirit of uprising within Iran itself. If anything, the opposite is the case. They are more determined to stand against this illegal war. So he also said this is a war that should not have happened. He said, and a war that does no one any good. Force provides no solution, he said, and armed conflict will only increase hatred and breed new crises. A strong fist does not mean strong reasoning skills. The world cannot return to the law of the jungle. And Wong continued in this vein and urged all sides, like I said, to return to the negotiating table. And he added, China stands ready to work with regional countries to restore order and peace to the Middle East. He also maintained that China's relations with Russia remain steadfast and unshakable. Slide 2, please, Alex. Both Russia and China have labeled the US-Israeli war on Iran a clear violation of international law. President Putin has called the assassination of Ali Khamenei as a cynical violation of all the norms of human morality. Russia and China have so far condemned the war, but they have stopped short of offering direct military support. And both countries have called for an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council. Slide 3. Someone, I know Alex will enjoy putting this slide up. Russia's foreign minister has also issued a sharp warning and criticized the United States and Israel, calling for an immediate halt to their war on Iran. His remarks have raised speculation about whether Russia would step in to support the Iranian military. But so far, both Russia and China are pressing for a diplomatic solution to this conflict. But how long will that last? That was the question I'd like to pose. How long will this last? And as we see this war escalating, I suppose that might be the question on everybody's mind. So that was a kind of short look at what appears to be Russia and China's current stance. They both would like to see this resolved diplomatically through the auspices of even the UN Security Council. And the question, I suppose, is, like we said, like I just said, whether Russia and China will directly intervene to support Iran in a more direct and military way, rather than just offering support with things like satellite information, satellite tracking and targeting, supply of missiles and things like that, which they've done prior to the conflict. It's an open-ended question, and one I thought might warrant a little bit of discussion. So,
problem is, sorry.
No, just say I'd perhaps like to get your opinion on how you feel the strength, perhaps, or the weakness of their response is.
I feel like there's no good response, because the reason I feel like they are hanging back from any direct military participation, the reason they're using and I mean, Putin will do anything legally anyway. He thinks in those manner. Yeah. So he will go to the UN first. I feel like there's more to that as a meets the eye, actually, which I'll come back to in a second. But it's like, if they did interfere militarily it would be another escalation. It would expand that to closer to a global conflict. It would bring a full World War III closer and closer again. But by not responding, they kind of give carte blanche to the Americans to carry on. They haven't condoned it, and they can't be seen as condoning it, but they aid what they've used all the way through Iran. Oh, Russia are do nothing. We can cross the red lines. Russia are do nothing. Russia are do nothing. And now they're going to go, Russia and China are do nothing. We can press ahead with it. So acting could cause World War III.
Yeah.
Acting could cause nuclear Armageddon. Not acting could cause America to be so sure of itself that it furthers World War III. Not acting could cause America so sure of itself that when it can't put troops on the ground, it sends nukes into Iran. There's no good answer. There really is no good option for them. And they've tried to do this all the way through. And in every other version, Putin specifically, and the Russians specifically, they seem to find a way to counter what they do. They seem to find an answer. So we've got to still hope that they will find some answer that I can't think of at this moment to do it.
Yeah.
But it's, you know what I mean? I
I
don't see an easy
exactly.
answer or a good one.
I know exactly what you mean, because I wasn't expecting you to be able to answer that, because none of us can answer that. It is in the hands of seasoned, experienced diplomats. But diplomacy, as we've said on so many occasions, doesn't exist. It only exists on one side. It exists on the Russian side. You can see that China, again, always seeks to try and solve things. China isn't interested in going to war with anyone. Russia, neither is Russia, for that matter. China wants to develop a trading empire. It wants to trade with its neighbors. It wants to trade internationally, and wars disrupt. Especially this war will disrupt that trade. War will stop. Will stop the flow of oil. War will curtail international shipping. It's not good economically for anybody. Everybody will suffer economically because of that war, or this war. But this seems to be a price that America is only too willing to pay. Let other people suffer, because I think that in some respects, and when we were talking about the US ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, he actually said this. He actually said, when asked how did he think this war would affect America economically, he said, well, America's pretty well set up. We've got a lot of energy independence. We don't have to worry about stuff like that. Well, basically, fuck everybody else. America will do what it wants to do, and America is willing to take large military steps, the kind of steps that China has never done, the kind of steps that Russia has only done under intense pressure because of the persecution of its own peoples. But you're exactly right. Especially Russia, tries to go about things in a justified legal manner, to have backing for what it does, to have a legal framework in which it can put itself, and that can be visibly seen to be a legal framework. But that's not the case with America. It's not the case with Israel. Neither of them have any respect at all for international law. They don't consider it even a factor that you know. So yeah, I think that this is an unanswerable question right now, and maybe only will be answered when things get very, very much worse, when options become very much more limited.
Much more limited, yeah. I think the other side, I said I'll get back to it. The other bit I find interesting is they've summoned, which they've got every right to do, but a meeting of the UN Security Council.
Yeah.
Not the General Assembly, but the actual Security Council. There's a part of me wonders if this is kind of a challenge is the wrong word, more an exploratory strike to see how the response comes in from the Board of Peace. Because it seems to be very much that was already on its first meeting suffering massive mission creep. It was already on its first meeting moving beyond the remit on Gaza. It's been proposed from its inauguration, in whatever the word it is, from its foundation, that they see it as almost a counterpoint to, almost a replacement for the UN.
Yeah.
So I feel like by deliberately convening the Security Council, the UN Security Council, they're trying to confirm the role of that body and trying to reconfirm in a way its position in international law in challenge of the Board of Peace.
Yeah. I can entirely see that point of view. And the problem really with the UN is like we pointed out on many occasions. It was a replacement for the League of Nations, which proved to be ineffectual. But it has become an ineffectual body itself because of the way that it was set up. It kind of resembles the European Parliament almost, where you've got a body politic that can take decisions, can have discussions, can have pass resolutions, but none of that's the General Assembly. None of them are binding. The real power rests with the Security Council, and that Security Council is completely hamstrung by the veto system. It has no real chance of gaining a unanimous verdict in any issues that concern what America or Israel want. And so it has become an ineffectual body. And even though it is such an ineffectual body, Trump has seen fit to try and just set up a new body that is completely controlled by America, that is just America's rubber stamp. So yeah, while I applaud China and Russia's efforts to try and bring this issue before the Security Council, in order that the world can see that they're trying to do things in a legal and manner, in compliance with international law and using the international systems that are in place. I very much think that this is an exercise in demonstrating to the world that they are trying to do this, that they are exhausting this avenue. What comes after that is the kind of $64,000 question. What comes after? What comes after America vetoes yet another decision in the Security Council? What then for Russia and China? Bearing in mind that both of them have brought Iran into their orbit, have brought Iran into this new well, China wants to extend its Belt and Road through Iran using the old, what you might call the Silk Road idea. So Iran is a very important part of this new counter system to the old hegemony. So the question really is, how far are they prepared to go in order to ensure that Iran survives? And that right now is an uncertainty.
Yeah. It is.
Mm.
One thing I can guarantee one thing I can guarantee with Russia, whatever they do, it won't be what I expect them to do. It always takes me off guard. Mostly in a, I didn't know how you'd get around that, but yeah, that's a good one. A good call there. Yeah. But occasionally with things that I think, I don't know. It's like Syria, I was surprised they didn't. And I mean, when the fog of war cleared, it became clear why they didn't intervene. But I was surprised at the time how they just let Assad fall on that one. Like I say, when the fog starts clearing, when the things come out, you start seeing a bigger picture. But at the time, I did wonder why they didn't intervene then. And part of me, if I hadn't seen the way, if I couldn't see that there's no good answer because there isn't, I would possibly be wondering again why they're not being a bit more proactive back in Iran. But I genuinely think they do not want World War III. Well, I know they don't want World War III because they're still sane, which the Western leadership isn't. Exactly. You can't say it any other way because our leadership isn't sane. And I do credit Lavrov because I think the guy is the last diplomat. I credit Putin.
In this world where diplomacy exists in a very few pockets anymore, in a way, I almost think that the point that you were just making about Russia not taking a more proactive stance in places like Syria has emboldened the Trump regime. It's emboldened the Washington apparatus to believe that Russia never will, to believe that Russia will only sit on the sidelines and complain and do moves like this, so try to do things under international law which they don't respect and for which to them they imagine doesn't apply. So this has become a kind of standard position of the American machine, that it believes Russia, and it apparently must believe that China will not actively engage. I think the fly in the ointment is North Korea.
Yes.
who play their own game, and they're a different kettle of fish.
But, ironically, I feel like we've never heard the full truth on North Korea either.
Probably not.
But I definitely get the vibe that he would be much more, or much quicker, much keener to be personally involved than China and Russia would.
A very different personality.
Trigger happy, if you like.
I mean, I'm just saying. I'm not sitting here pretending to be any fan of North Korea. They're not the greatest of regimes, you might say, and I hate that word, but that's a way to describe. No, they're not the greatest of regimes, and they have done some very bad things, really. But the one thing about North Korea is much like all the other nuclear armed countries in the world. Nobody wants to mess with them. Nobody wants to mess with North Korea. Nobody wants to invade. Nobody's proposing. Well, there are some people proposing invading North Korea, but what North Korea has shown the world is that if you are a nuclear armed power, you will stand. You will be left alone because nobody wants to. Well, up until this point, let's say, up until the fuckwits who think nuclear war is perfectly winnable have come into power. It was kind of tacitly agreed that you don't mess with nuclear armed countries. You don't mess with Russia. You don't mess with China. And you wouldn't have messed with Iran either had they have got a nuclear weapon.
And that's the thing. There are memes going round, and it's we're attacking Iran because they've got nuclear weapons. All right. So why aren't you attacking Russia, or why aren't you attacking North Korea then? Well, don't be stupid. We're not idiots. They've got nuclear weapons.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. You've got two nuclear powers attacking a country that supposedly hasn't, according to all the IAEA inspectors, and Iran was the most inspected country on the planet. It complied with every IAEA, whatever it is, International Atomic Energy Agency.
IAEI, I think that.
IAEI. Whatever. At this point,
they really matter. We know who you mean. We all know who you mean anyway.
Yeah, you know what I mean. They complied with all of
yeah, they did.
Israel has never complied to any inspection whatsoever. It's not part, and this is a point I've said till I'm blue in the face. It has never complied with any arms limitation treaty or any any inspections, any scrutiny. It got its first nuclear material by stealing it. By what standards have Israel got to impose anything on the nuclear front on anybody? I find it it's the height of hypocrisy.
Yeah.
It's the height of
the whole thing is the height of hypocrisy, though. Because how do you stand there? How do you stand there as an illegal nuclear power attacking a country for trying to develop nuclear weapons that you don't officially have, but you do have, and everybody knows you don't officially have, but you do have? Added to which, how do you stand there claiming to be freeing Iranians, to be countering the abuses of women and children, and celebrate that by bombing a girls' school?
Yeah. After you just spent 2 years bombing hospitals, schools, mosques, universities, anything, actually killing aid workers and burying them and their vehicles in the desert to try and cover up the fact that you've massacred them in cold blood. How have you got any moral authority to tell anybody anything? But yet they brazenly come out with these statements. And what really sickens me is I saw a video the other day where there was an Israeli woman, I think she might have been an IDF member,
probably,
basically condemning Israel for attacking civilians, basically saying, look behind me, look what they've done. Look, is this any kind of way to... What the fuck are you talking about, woman? What are you talking about? Have you seen what you did to Gaza? You probably were there. I just can't. I can't get my head around it. How anyone can believe that there is any morality whatsoever in what Israel does, in what it does on the world stage, and what it even does at home. It is an apartheid, murderous regime based on lies. And I'm like I said, I've started to come round to Richard's opinion that it should be obliterated, and they don't care about obliterating children and women or anybody or the elderly or the sick. That was it. She was standing outside an old folks home, and this old folks home had been destroyed in Tel Aviv. That it's coming back to my mind now, and I thought, do you know what? You've had the chance to evacuate those people, haven't you? You've had the chance ever since day one to evacuate those elderly people. Many, many thousands of people have fled Tel Aviv. What have they done? Left their elderly relatives behind? Do you not care about these people? Why didn't you evacuate them to the country where it might be a bit safer? But now you cry about them being bombed. No. You don't care about anybody else. You don't care about anybody's old people, anybody's children, anybody else whatsoever. So don't expect the world to listen to your or look at your crocodile tears and have any sympathy whatsoever.
No, exactly.
This has been a night of rants, but this is how I feel. This is how I feel. I am sick to death of watching this Israeli regime strut around on the world stage like a ballerina in a pure white tutu, pretending to be innocent and pure and full of all the goodness in the world. And I am sick of that. I'm sick of them playing the victim whilst bombing children. I'm sick of them playing the victim while bombing elderly people, while deliberately targeting civilians, and then crying that our civilians are being targeted. Well, tough shit. Karma's a bitch, isn't it?
Yeah. It's likely to get worse.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for the fact of how many buttons and fingers on buttons with the Samsung option, I'd probably be cheering it on.
Yeah.
But I thought we'd try and end on a slightly lighter note in some ways, although it's lighter in the sense of incredulity. I can't get my words out again. Incredulity. But I want to look at some of the videos going around, and I've got two of the actual videos and I've got them muted with no sound, so I'm hoping that'll stop them picking it up. First one I couldn't get though, and there's several versions of this one going round. I don't know if you've actually seen it. It is AI generated, but it's also quite funny. I don't know if you've seen any of the versions, but there are various versions with Trump trying to steal barrels of oil. And he gets these barrels of oil, then he opens them, and missile comes out, and he ends up running away and jumping off the end of the boat. There are various versions of this. And I think that has genuinely been made just by the average person in the street observing it and using AI to make videos and whatever. But the next two I want to show you, and this is the level of incredulity, this is the level of insanity of kids in the playground. These are actually state-produced. And I know I'm saying that in a way for both sides in this sense, but we live in an era of memes and an era of videos, an era of trying to appeal to Gen Z and maybe try to get them on board with the war, I don't know. But this is America's video they've made on the Iran war. This guy, the cartoon animated character you'll see, and this is GTA San Andreas video game.
I knew straight away.
It's become almost like a recurring trope, the old shit, here we go again. And they've interspersed this with attacks, genuine attacks video from the conflict, and using the whole, like, you get when you get killed in the video game, you get the wasted bit come across.
Yeah.
So this is their idea of trying to get people behind the war, trying to get Gen Z behind the war, trying to get the gamers behind the war, to try and basically gamify the whole concept of warfare.
Yeah. I knew straight away as soon as I saw the word wasted. That's it. That's the GTA Grand Theft Auto. When the character gets killed, it says wasted, and oh shit, here we go again. When he gets brought back to life. But unlike characters in Grand Theft Auto, or your player character, you can't get brought back to life in real life, can you? You know, when you're dead,
No,
you're
you
dead.
can't.
But exactly, you're exactly right. That looks for all the world to me to be exactly what you just said, a gamification of a real war, in order to try to appeal to the kind of mentality of people who play these games, which is a very large section of younger people.
Mm.
So it's cynical, and it's I don't know. I can't quite put my finger on what word I want to describe it as. You know, the former memes, the Trump meme, they're kind of almost humorous, really.
Yeah.
You know, Trump's looking for oil and out pops a missile. Yeah. There are many, and I have resisted this urge, to be honest, because there are quite a lot of programs now available, basically for free, where you can just give the AI a set of parameters. You know, I know, two mice fighting over a dead cat or something, you know, and it will create that meme for you. I've resisted that urge because, in general, I'm not. I suppose very much like you, I'm not a great fan of letting AI do everything. You know, of just I don't have to worry about trying to express anything in words. I'll just post an AI meme and that'll say it all for me. I'm not, you know, some of them are quite funny, some of them are quite good. The possibilities are endless. So I'm not so much bothered about that. But the second one, that's really worrying. That's really the reduction of this to that level. It's taking all the reality out of it. You know, it's taking the reality out of war and putting it into the context of a game, no matter how violent that game might be. But that's what it's reducing it to that level.
Yeah, that's kind of what concerns me. And the same argument could be said in a way. It's not a game, but for the next one, because the next one is kind of Iran's response. It doesn't wind me up the same way as the GTA one, because it doesn't feel to be a direct aimed at people, like the gaming community, you know what I mean, aimed at the youth to try and get them on board. It seems much more just kind of making a point, kind of making a threat in some ways. But that may be my own biases. But this is the Iran one.
Yeah. That very much, to me, seems to be on the lines of justified revenge. What they're emphasizing is the, you know, the initial action of the bombing of that girls' elementary school, then becomes the driver for this retaliatory action, and it's also, yeah, in that kind of propaganda way, it's emphasizing Iran's ability to do this, you know, and the fact that it's saying in that thing, we can strike you anywhere, you know, there is no hiding place for you, and we can take down, you know, your infrastructure, we can force the price of oil up to where it starts to hurt you, and we can do all of this because, and we are doing all of this because of your totally and utterly unprovoked illegal attack. That's what that video says to me. And there are a lot of real incidents in that, in the Legoification. That's a new word, Legoification of the video. Yeah.
It's very clever, actually, because I like the fact that it starts off, the very first scene is they're looking at themselves in the Epstein files, and then they suddenly grab the button to start launching an attack. So it pulls on that whole, well, the
reality,
the whole Operation Epstein Fury that we called the Lone Gunman a couple of weeks ago. That phrase is getting everywhere now, which I quite appreciate.
They have
I've started hashtagging it as well, which doesn't it's probably not stopping it get further, but then I'm not trying to stop it now. I quite like the fact that it's going everywhere, because it's we need to make that point.
It's out there.
It's
out there, and it's justified. It's the way that, you know, you can look upon this war as being running cover for the Epstein files. So Iran's very much picked up on that fact right from the get-go. They portrayed this war as being launched by those who were coming under scrutiny and pressure, and so they've done this to distract from anything coming back on them. They're very, very clever, very and probably very truthful.
I think it is in many ways. I also like the old the other bit is that when you've got Netanyahu running along, you've got rats. The only thing that's not legal in there, you've got rats running along beside him. To me, it's a rat.
All the rats
in the sinking ship.
Yeah, and they've included the I think it's the Liberty, isn't it? The USS Liberty, the carrier that was supposed to have been struck. Was it the Liberty? Yeah, they've actually, because Iran said that they did this. And then there's the whole machine that said, no, it wasn't struck. We deflected all these missiles. We just moved away and called in another carrier to replace, not replace, bolster our forces. I think more and more, I think there's likely to be truth in that, which the Iranians have maintained since it supposedly happened, but which in the propaganda world cannot be seen to be believed by anybody. Mainstream media or any of the bought and paid for media cannot even speculate about that. It won't be. It's not talked about. There is the denial, and that is the truth. There was no. We successfully dealt with that. Yeah, I would like eventually. And I'm sure at some stage that the truth will come out, that the truth will be revealed. But right now, we're seeing is the deception.
Yeah.
And I very much think that this deception's likely to be on the American side.
Yep. We will. I think we will see a certain amount eventually, because like they did in Gaza because they're still trying to maintain that Iran bombed its own school again.
Oh,
and
yeah.
But like we saw with that very first, and it goes back to that very first attack on the hospital in Gaza.
Yeah.
First hospital that they blew up, and they blew up plenty subsequently, but the first one they blew up, it was no, we didn't do it. No, it was a Hamas missile. No, we didn't do it. Well, we fired it, but we didn't hit it. We hit the car park. We didn't hit the hospital at all. We only hit the car park. No, we fired it, and we only hit the outbuildings of the hospital, and nobody was there by then. They'd already got out.
Yeah.
No, well, yes, we did hit the hospital, but we told them to evacuate. We gave them notice and told them to evacuate. And I think that's where it stopped. But that was over a period of weeks. It changed.
Yeah, I remember it clearly.
Yes.
I remember it was something we discussed at the. I remember discussing it with you at the outset of the Gaza genocide. But don't you? And I think I might have replied to this probably badly, because I think I might have had a few drinks. But I replied to a meme on this very thing, and I said that this has become what you can almost see as Israel's signature. It's Israel's signature of initiating any conflict. The first thing Israel does, and counter to a lot of what people say, I personally believe, and from the evidence I've looked into, I believe that girls' school was attacked by Israel, not, as George Galloway says, by America. I believe it was attacked by 2 Blue Sparrow missiles launched from F-15s standing outside Iran, in what has also become an Israeli signature, which is the double tap. They initially hit that girls' school, they then seem to wait, just like they did in Gaza. They did it over and over and over and over again in Gaza, giving it the name double tap. Then they wait for the emergency services to turn up, and then they hit again. And that seems to be what they did. And that is an Israeli signature attack. That's both of those factors. The fact that the first thing they strike is civilian infrastructure, hospitals or schools. And secondly, the fact that they do it in that cynical way to try and kill even more innocent civilians.
Yeah.
That's my opinion on that incident.
I've not looked at the actual. I've looked at enough to say it's come from the Israel-American side, and that nothing makes sense in the counter arguments, because the counter arguments don't add up. But I've not looked close enough to see whether America fired it or Israel, or if there's even a difference nowadays.
Well, no, they are the Zio-American Empire. They're a symbiotic combination of a single ideology that has spread itself, infected the US political system, and is bolstered by the fuckwits like Huckabee, the Christian Zionist idiots, who see all this as a necessary requirement to bring Christ back. Yeah. I'll tell you what, if Christ does come back, he's going to kick your ass.
He's going to give him a nasty shock, because he ain't going to be on their side.
Yeah.
But
Again, you're going.
Sorry, no, I was just going to say, I'm slightly smirking, because while I'm trying to be good and trying not to argue with fuckwits on Facebook, I have started trolling the APAC page, because they started popping up on my timeline.
Well, That's not entirely a waste of time because they do deserve it.
They do.
I mean,
They tried to say something, so I replied, "Have you? What's? Oh, they were moaning about the New York mayor and not fighting anti-Semitism properly." And I said, "What? Seriously? Do you expect me to believe that there's even one politician in America that you haven't bought?
That you haven't already corrupted?" Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Well, you can see. I mean, I've lost count of the number of times that Netanyahu was actually. I think it might be 7 times this year. It might be 5. I can't remember. He's visited America quite a lot, and every time he stands in front of the clapping seals, gets a standing ovation, as if he's some kind of demigod, bringing the truth and everything to bringing the word to the good people of America.
Yeah.
The depth of infiltration, corruption, probably blackmail, and this is all again linked to the Epstein's affair, that has infected the American political system, in my opinion, makes it completely unfit for purpose. It no longer represents its own country. It is not an institution that seems to have America's interests at heart.
No.
It is an institution, and I'll say this for the Senate as well. It is an institution that seems to be dedicated to promoting the wishes of a foreign hostile power. Actually, if you start to examine some of the things Candace Owens recently come out with about 9/11, about and the thing I pointed out about how they murdered Kennedy, and I'm convinced that the Israelis murdered Kennedy. So Israel is not exactly what you would call a friendly country to. It's more like a parasitic leech that has been draining America, and one that has infected America, one that has taken over its host body, and is now operating the host as a kind of puppet.
Yeah.
Oh goodness, we've been going. I was just looking at the time, the clock, and thinking Ian's probably going to have to watch this back. It's all right while we're participating. The time flies by, but when you we're pushing nearly 2 hours 40. But tonight's been good. Tonight's been a cathartic experience. I think it's given. Well, I've found it so. Not been on the show this afternoon, it's been an opportunity to vent some of the things that are festering. And my blood pressure is perfectly fine. Somebody said, "What's your blood pressure?"
Somebody was worried you were having chest pains in the middle of it, actually. I don't know if there was anything.
You notice I laugh a lot. I mean, we both laugh a lot because it's a kind of pressure relief valve. You can only wind yourself up so much when you just have to let that steam off. But you also have to try and maintain, your own sanity, or what little sanity is left. So, okay.
Yeah, well, I think, like you said, though, we have gone on quite a way, so we will draw it to a close. I was just looking up something, I can't multitask. Tam quoted again earlier on about you call me a terrorist, where you look down your gun and you think of all the things that you have done. Well, when you're talking about when we're looking at Israel and America, I think there's another one that's quite suitable, and it's her face and tail are all her own, but her brains are foreign led. It's the old get back off Teddy's head.
Where does that come from?
Comes back from Teddy Bear's head. The whole thing is, here's up the rebels, get back off Teddy's head. Her face and tail are all her own, but her brains are foreign lead.
I'm not sure I've heard that before, but it's very apt.
It's Irish folk again, basically.
That's, you're quite acquainted with Irish folk, with that whole sort of scene. Is it a song by Wolf Tone? Is it? Or?
Yeah, I don't know if anybody else does it, but it is one of theirs.
Yeah. No. I mean, they're a kind of they're in that tradition of I think of political artistry. You know, that they are highlighting the past and you know, shining spotlights on injustice. And they're probably going to do another farewell tour next year.
Oh, they are. They're doing another farewell tour this year.
Oh, right.
I haven't got tickets yet. If I get money in time to get me tickets, I probably will do.
You'll probably be there. I knew you'd be there.
They would go in. They were going in. When was the first one I went to? Was 2024. The first one I ever went to was supposed to be their farewell tour. And then in 2025, they did the festival at Liverpool, and they did tours in Ireland as well.
Yeah.
2026, they're back in Glasgow. But I went to the Armadillo last time. They're in the bigger one now. They're in the OVO, I think it is.
Yeah.
This time, so I might get in there. They're in June this year.
Oh well, and that's I think you're you know, it's a very good hobby. It's a very and they, I mean, I can't say I'm hugely acquainted with their music. I think when you were going the last time, I did watch a couple of Wolf Tone things from I think it was some festival or something that they played, or it might have been an indoor concert. I can't remember. I haven't listened to them, but like I'm not that familiar with them.
No.
But,
I like my musical to it. I'm not going to get on too much of a tangent, but my musical taste is anything that tells a story.
Yeah.
But when you get anything that tells a story and is also historical, it's telling history, then obviously that appeals to me.
Yeah. Yeah, they say there's a long tradition of that in the folk sort of side, which is kind of now, you know, in some respects blended itself with more sort of rocky music as well, and obviously you've got that tradition with what you might call protest singers, people like Dylan and in his early years, when he was doing quite a lot of kind of protest type songs. So protesting and raising social awareness in song is a long tradition, and you know, many songs have a lot of truth within them, but put forth in a musical style. Yeah.
If you do look up anything else on the Wolf Tones, look up Big Brother.
I'll write that down. Oh, I got a pen. I'll remember that. Big Brother. I will do that. Maybe tomorrow, actually. I might do that, and I'll let you know. So
you won't find the lyrics anywhere, so you'll have to find something that actually plays it. Ironically, I can't think why. You'll know why when you listen to it.
Right.
But it's interesting. Let's put it that way. But you'll have to listen to the music because you won't find the actual lyrics written down.
Right. Okay.
Anyway, on that
note. Well, thanks for that. Okay. I have tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
No, I would say tomorrow I've got. I've decided at long last. Now, years ago, I did go for an examination, and I was given a degree of hearing loss. But my problem is I have raging tinnitus, and it's 24/7, and it's quite loud, and it gets louder and louder sometimes. So I thought, do you know what? I'm going to try for it's everywhere on the internet at the minute. There's been decisions in the High Court about hearing loss and tinnitus compensation. So I thought, you know what, I've got nothing to lose. So I'm gonna. But the phone call takes about half an hour to get all the details and everything. So that's going to take a portion of tomorrow. And obviously, I've got to wash the car and walk the dog, and busy life. So I don't know why I mentioned that. It's just, and now I've got to listen to Wolf Tones as well. That's why.
Anyway, on that note, we will finish off. So it's Sunday evening now. I'll be back on Tuesday at 9 p.m. with The Gleam in the North. Glenn will be back on Friday at 7:30 with The Man in Black. We will be back next Sunday afternoon I think we're doing Sunday afternoon. Are we going to sort something out?
I think, we said we're going to have a chat about it and see what we can come up with. I mean, obviously, Ian's not going to be with us, but we'll try and make a fist of it.
Yeah. We'll be back Sunday afternoon, 1:50 with Lone Gunman Rides again, and back next Sunday night at 8 p.m. with Last Jacobites International. So take care. See you soon, and good night.
Good night.
We are the last Jacobites, proud and free, will not be bought nor bend the knee. Like Arbroath's cry and freedom's flame, we rise as one and stake our claim. Oh, side by side through storm and fight, we stand as one in truth and right. From every shore we answer the call, Clan Jacobite, we rise or fall. It matters not our skin or land, but hearts as one and hand in hand. The blood we share is brave and bold, in woven dreams and legends old. Oh, side by side through storm and fight, we stand as one in truth and right. From every shore we answer the call, Clan Jacobite, we rise or fall. I am you and you are me, a thread within this tapestry. For hopes of all, for every name, we light the fire, we keep the flame. No sea can part us, nor the land. Together strong, we proudly stand. With courage, truth, and spirits high, we pledge our oath beneath the sky. Oh, side by side through storm and fight, we stand as one in truth and right. Raise the banner, lifting